traffic. Oh, listen, be careful. Need to be careful. Yeah?
Why?
A good friend of mine, colleague.
Are you threatening me?
No, I said be careful.
Officer, he's just told me Are you a muppet?
Guys, can we just step aside?
Be careful.
Yeah, I said be careful.
All right.
Are you threatening me?
I know.
Just step back. You can get back behind the ears.
Heute schöner Götterfunken Tag zu aus Elysium. Wir betreten Feuer trunken, himmlische dein Heiligtum. Deine sauber bindende Lehre muss dem Mode streng gelteilt. Alle Menschen betriebe, wo dein sanfter Fliegel weicht.
It's not enough of times yet.
Thank you.
You know they're threatening you, right?
Where are you from? Other states.
I don't think you've been attacked.
I wouldn't even say nothing. He started accusing me of threatening him and that.
Well,
you know?
why did you say we had to be careful?
No,
Why did you say
right,
that?
for
Tell
two
me
reasons.
why.
Okay? No, let's hear it.
Speak.
No, don't talk to me like that about speak.
No.
Do you know what I mean? That's rude and ignorant, isn't
I've
it?
asked
Do you know what I
nicely.
mean?
Why
I'm
do you
gonna
think?
talk to you, yeah?
Okay, so why do you think we need to be careful?
Right, one, because you're in a road and the cars was coming.
That's
yeah,
okay,
so that's one reason.
That one's fair enough, okay.
And the second reason was because I was just reliably informed, that if one of these, if one of these flags hit you and touch you, then it turns you into a twat for 10 minutes. Yeah, so that was all I was going to say. Yeah, was that look, be careful because look, the flag's hitting her. Now she's going to be a twat for 10 minutes, and obviously you're in the road as well.
As opposed to a twat for your whole life.
I ain't a twat, to be honest with you. And I reckon more people agree with me than they do you.
How are you?
I reckon there's every chance they don't.
Singing national anthem from Spain. That was from Spain.
Sorry?
The one who was singing the national anthem for.
No. That's the.
Can I film? Yeah.
If you like, yes.
Yeah.
No, that wasn't the national anthem of Spain. I don't know the national anthem of
So what
Spain.
does that?
That is the Ode to Joy, which is a piece of Beethoven that has been adopted by the EU as a sort of anthem for the EU.
What language it was?
German.
Oh, yes, it was in German.
Because
What's their reason?
Can you translate for me in English, please? I just want to know.
I can't, to be honest.
gonna
Not off the
say
top of my head.
reading.
Yeah, no.
So that'll take some skill.
You can. I use the text that comes from Schiller, so you can find that online. It'll give you. But it's all about things being lovely and let's all work together and what are anthems ever about?
I really like that. You have a very nice voice as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, the singing was good to you. I like that. The
It
singing
was
was very good,
nice.
yes.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Welsh, you see.
God bless you.
my son was...
Is that the reason why it's good, yeah?
Well, the Welsh do have the reputation of singing, don't they?
They do indeed.
So-
They do indeed, my friend.
So he's cheating the system, really.
No, he's not cheating the system. He's perfectly
Well,
entitled.
exactly what you say about other people getting Irish passports. You say, oh look, they just fraud it, they just go and get it. They're not even British, they're not even British. You know what I mean? That's why a lot of your side do say that though.
Northern Ireland passport, they are British.
Yes.
If you live in Northern Ireland, you're entitled to a passport from Ireland.
But
Yes. You can have two. You can have both.
You went off down something else. But let's go back to the real question I asked you. And the real question was I asked you, why do you think most young people, why do you think they would like to be joined?
I told you why.
You will be aware. I mean, I'm not sure if when you're saying that you're aware of this, but in various polls done, it's like 80% of 18 to 24-year-olds polled want to rejoin.
Yeah, so why? I'm asking you why. That's why do you think that reason is?
Well, there's.
And don't tell me about free trade, because 18, 24-year-olds ain't thinking about free trade.
No, they're not.
They're
They're
thinking about going on holidays.
Well,
and
they are
thinking
thinking
about partying.
They are
That's
thinking.
what they're thinking about.
No. Well, they are thinking. I'm not going to deny that they're thinking about that. But there's also the freedom of movement, education, and working.
You can still do education.
No. All of. I was about to say. All of which are yet possible, but they are now more convoluted and difficult to do than they were before.
No, they're not.
Yes, they are.
They're not. You
Yes,
just fill out
they
an
are.
application form.
No.
You get accepted.
You didn't have to do anything other than get into the college before. Now you have to address things as regards your right to be in the country and all that sort of thing, or rather not in the country, in the EU. But prior to that, no, hold on. If you're going to film, they can film. Now,
They can do, but I can create my own privacy then. Can't
well,
I?
you can, yes, but you know the point is that if you're going to film, other people can film.
Yeah,
It's a
but
public
I'm
street.
just going to create my own privacy.
And apart from anything else, I have been wearing this all
Yeah,
along.
that's okay,
so-
that's fine. I don't
You're
mind
on
you,
it.
but these people just coming out of nowhere, putting cameras in my face is a bit wrong. I'm not coming out of nowhere, I'm standing there.
But just on the point of education and working, because you know,
boy, for fuck's sake.
the classic thing of being a youngster is having a little bit of a job, going to France, going to Italy, a summer, maybe a year. It's not serious. You don't want to be working there forever, but you do a little bit, right? Now that used to be a case of you get on the plane, you go there, you do it.
Yeah.
It isn't that now. You can do it. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm not saying it's impossible. But it is much more convoluted and tricky than it used to be. I'll give you another example because I used to be a musician and I was in this band and I left the band. So this is the days when I was still in the EU, right? And it was all perfectly amicable and everything. And then it came up that the guy who'd taken over as the bass player from me couldn't do a gig that they'd gotten at very short notice, actually on the beach in Nice. Very nice little corporate gig, the sort of thing you'd like to do. But that guy couldn't do it. And of course, I'd left about 4 or 5 months. I hadn't long left. So I pretty much knew all the songs, learned 1 or 2 more Gareth, you know, but pretty much I got it. So it was a case of all I had to do was put my bass guitar on my back, get on the plane, go there, 2 days notice. Now that is impossible now. You cannot do that.
No, listen, and you know what? For good reason as well, because the majority of the people voted to leave the EU. So I think
Now.
you should get over it.
No, I
listen,
like that. Wait,
listen,
I'm going to.
listen,
I'll
no.
finish and then I'll just say
No,
something.
no, you're not, because I'm going to end it right after this.
No, that's not fair.
Listen, I am.
This
This is, listen,
this
let me
is
tell you this.
debate. You can't just do that
I
unilaterally.
can. This is the AY
It's
show,
freedom
my
of
friend.
speech. Freedom
This
of
is the
speech.
AY show.
I don't
So
care
I'm
what
going
it
to
is.
end it right here
Freedom of
on this.
speech. I get to reply.
No, you don't.
Yes.
Not on the AY
Then-
show.
then
Not
I-
on the AY show.
If you right, okay.
There you go, you blew your chance now. You see how big audience he's got.
I don't care what sort of audience he's
Well,
got.
what's your point of being here if you're not want to appeal to
I
everybody
have-
on both sides?
Well, that's the point. If you're going to do that, you have to have the right of reply, don't you?
Of course he
Yes,
got the right.
so he just
But
denied
gave
me
you
the right to
ample
reply.
He gave you a lot of time to speak, and when he wanted to speak,
Fair
you said-
enough.
You said, "I'm going to back off now."
No. What I
that's
said
what-
was,
that's what killed
he
the
said he was
conversation.
going to say something. I said, well, that's fine, but I've got something to say in response to it. And he said, no, you can't make the response.
Yeah, because he was going to end it there.
Well,
You've had a conversation.
this
He
isn't
let
the
you
BBC.
speak. I want
He
to
hasn't
end
got
it.
to worry about the next thing.
Mate, come on.
You
It's
know,
not a
but-
debating show. It's not the BBC fucking news
It's
night.
not a debating show, as you said.
Yes.
But the point is, if he wants my engagement, it is a debating
But he
show.
gave you,
I will
he
debate.
gave you ample opportunity to say your bit, and when he said, "Right, I'm going to say this and end it here," you said, "No."
No.
You should have let him speak. He
I
might
would have
surprise
happily
you.
let him speak.
But
happily
you,
let him
but
speak.
you interrupted.
In fact, I was very
You
keen to
intervened.
hear him.
You intervened
But
at the wrong point.
the moment that he said a majority,
I think you
will
were
tell
given
you.
more than enough time.
I will tell you. I will tell you guys now exactly what I was going to say. You know how he said majority, right?
Yeah.
Right. True. 52% voted to leave. 48% voted to remain. So, however, look at that a little closer. The 52%, right, that voted to leave. They were only 37% of the electorate. Indeed, they were only 27% of the population. So basically, something that is constitutional, you'll appreciate that this is a constitutional matter. It impacts upon the very constitutional nature of the country. Now, in America, did you know this? You know there's all that trouble about guns, you know, and there's actually been a majority to modify the Constitution in favour of gun control, not in terms of taking
Never
away
gonna
guns.
happen.
That,
Never gonna
and
happen.
do you know why? That's what I'm coming to. Do you know why? Because there's actually been a majority in favour of doing that for decades, but there hasn't been a supermajority. Because to make a constitutional amendment, you don't just have, like we had, one guy more than the other guy. You have to have 60%, because what you need to do is to be able to demonstrate this is an emphatic will.
You need an equal amount left and right, like Democrats and Republicans. It's never ever going to
Yes,
happen.
but in other countries, that's what I make it.
Other countries.
That-
We live in the
Yeah,
UK.
I know,
Second Amendment is
but,
a Second
but
Amendment,
we
bro.
don't really
It's never
use
gonna happen.
referenda that much, and because we are a representative democracy. The nature of a representative democracy is not that referenda can't happen, but the first choice, how things are meant to be done, is you use your representatives. Of course, that's the MPs, and you do it that way. Now, it's not to say you
Can
rule
I
out
ask
the
you something,
possibility.
Can I just ask you one question? One second. I heard you say
Is it
about other
justice?
countries, yeah, what they do in other countries, yeah. and
On
you-
one very particular point.
on this particular point, yeah. So what these other countries they do, you think it's okay?
I was talking about one particular point, which was about changing constitutional matters. So if you, in America, for instance, it's changed, because everyone knows about the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms, all that sort of thing. Yeah. And what that means is to change that constitutional amendment, you need a supermajority, because what you can't do is exactly what we did in this country. In this country, right, 52-48, the problem with that...
I feel it's irrelevant if you talk about other countries, this is the UK, isn't it?
Because...
It doesn't matter what the fuck America does, France does, Germany does.
There's a reason other countries don't do it, and the reason they don't do it is because a minimal difference of 52-48%, right?
Yeah.
The problem with that is, now we've acted it, because Brexit has happened, right? Yeah? The problem with that is that right now every poll that's been done is showing at least 60% of people want to rejoin. And as we were talking about earlier on,
they should have got off their asses and voted then, shouldn't they? When it was crucial.
It's not just about people not bothering. That's a component, but it's also about some people having changed their mind. Because the nature is, when you've just got a 52-48, you don't need a lot of people to change their mind. And when you're talking about a constitutional
I hear
matter,
what you're saying,
but when you're talking about a constitutional matter,
it's too late, isn't it?
That's exactly why other countries don't do this. Because here's an idea for you. If, I'm not saying this is the case, but let's just take this as a bit of a thought experiment, right? If it is emphatically the case, I'm not saying it is, this is a thought experiment, that 60 or 70% of the people want to rejoin, but there has been this vote, is it democratic to insist that no, you can't change your mind?
I think it has to be that way.
But is it democratic? I didn't say, my specific question was, is it democratic?
I'd say yes, and I'd say yes.
But surely democracy is about the will of the majority.
We can't do a vote now and say, right, we're going to do another vote in 6 months, just in case you changed your mind. It won't fucking work, would it?
I fully concede the practical difficulty. What I was talking about there was the difficulty in principle. Because you'll appreciate that.
I'd say yes, you get one opportunity to make your
forever?
vote, cast your vote. And yeah, I reckon that's how it. The only way.
No,
it's
well,
viable.
we already had a referendum in the 70s, so that wasn't forever, was it? It was years. It was like decades,
Yeah.
but it wasn't forever. So in a democracy, it's a democracy because any decision taken in a democracy can be reviewed.
Okay, so hang on a minute. So let's get this
You know how we
straight.
have general elections.
So I'm guessing. So what you guys would like would be another referendum, another chance.
Well, no. You know how I mentioned about us being a representative? I mean, I don't object to the idea of a referendum. We could do it that way. But you know how I said about we're a representative democracy? What I would like to see happen is it be a manifesto commitment in a party's manifesto, right? And if they do get voted in, now we can have a little discussion about how likely it is, but in principle, if they do get voted in with that manifesto commitment, that's how it works in our...
Commitment to what, sorry?
To rejoin.
Right, okay.
That
So
would how we would do
our
it in this country.
democratic vote.
But hold on, a manifesto commitment is another democratic vote, isn't it?
Can I just ask something?
Yeah.
I'm not picking sides here, but am I right in saying that there was a manifesto commitment to have a referendum before?
Yes.
So would you not agree that it's better to have a manifesto commitment to have another referendum, or would you just want to bypass the referendum and just rejoin?
I mean, I don't object to either of those options. I mean, personally, my favourite option would be simply to have a manifesto commitment to rejoin.
Of course it would be.
But no, you say of course it is. But a lot of people say that I'm wrong to do that because it's
I'd agree that you're wrong as well.
because that's just one issue. And of course, when you go into an election, there's a multitude of issues you might be addressing. And to pin it all on one, that thing, but I say that you could do it that way because actually, this is costing us £40 billion a year. We are not actually able to get to grips with anything about this country right now because we have shot ourselves in the foot over it. And it is costing us a fortune. It is not, and it's not just the money. It is costing us in terms of reputation. It is also costing us just in terms of the speed at which we can get things done, and it's proven very difficult. And the thing is, what I do have to concede is it didn't have to be like that, because of course when there was one thing to leave, but when we left, we didn't have to leave the Horizon program. That's the science. Are you aware of this? Okay, a sort of science program. Now we've since rejoined Horizon, but Boris Johnson was such a twat. We just like to put this out there as well. We have since rejoined.
Something we agree on there.
Well, we were here when he chorusing him when he got pushed out. But the Horizon thing was all about universities and science and all working together. It was very, very important. Science is very, very important.
Yeah,
now we've since rejoined that, so that's
I'd agree
one
with
thing.
that. Yeah.
Another one, for instance, you possibly heard of Erasmus. Okay, Erasmus is when kids of a sort of like A-level age, going into university age, can use the education facilities of all over the country. Now, these things, although we pulled out of that, we didn't have to again. Now, the other one, now this is the one that you're going to. Are you aware of what the Dublin Convention was?
What?
The Dublin Convention.
I do,
You've
but
heard
I'm
it.
not- I've
Yeah.
heard of it, yes.
Yes, I know you've heard of it, because what that was, it was the means by which we had, well, all of the EU nations, it was an EU thing, that is an EU thing, but we didn't have to leave it, can return refugees, boat people, that sort of thing, to not just their country of origin, but for instance, we could have returned people to France.
Where they
something like
came from before here, like the last stop.
the last stop, if you like, yeah. Now, there are limitations that it's not, you can't do it with everyone, but the point is you could have done it with a lot.
Yes.
And of course, Boris Johnson pulled us out of that as well. Didn't have to. That again
is a twat.
Again, it's a twat, fine. But the point is, we didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
It's obviously it's one of a number of things that cause us an awful lot of problems. So the thing about leaving the EU is that there are different models of leaving the EU, and pretty much we picked the worst possible. I mean, the people talk. The only thing that would have possibly been worse would have been absolutely no deal. But when people, you have to bear in mind that when Boris Johnson goes on about, I've got this thing and everything, he really did get us the absolute minimal. Basically, he got us enough so the diabetics didn't die. It was almost that basic, right? And there are different models of leaving the EU. You know, when we were doing the voting and all that sort of jazz, there were a lot of things. I mean, Farage himself talked about us having something on the Norway option, which has although you're not a member or something, and that was being talked about an awful lot in the run-up to the thing. Of course, that didn't happen because Boris Johnson just went, believe everything. Yeah. So we know we can get into a territory whereby some people could come back at me and say, look, we could have had a more sensible Brexit. Yeah. Fine, but we didn't. We had this Brexit.
Right, we're going to leave it there. I appreciate your time either way. All right.
Cool. Okay. If it comes out again, I'll do it again. It's the Ode to Joy. It's a bit of Beethoven. The text is by Schiller, and it's been adopted by the EU as a sort of theme for the EU.
And it's Keir Starmer's favourite song.
And when Keir Starmer was on Desert Island Discs a few years back, he did nominate it as his favourite song. So this is before everything. I think we had actually had the votes at that point, but we hadn't actually left at that point. It was about 5 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, probably something like that.
So he's in opposition at that point. So, but he did say it was his favourite song. But now, of course, we're not fond of him because he sort of like said, no, we're Brexit, and we've got to, we can mess about on the edges and sort of like, but basically we're out. It's like, well, you've just made any of us then, haven't you? So. Well, as I said, that's a possibility, but I prefer the notion of a manifesto commitment that you can vote for, and then if you vote for that party, it happens. But you could do a referendum.
They could just go back in if they wanted to.
Yeah. I mean, there would be formalities to sort out, but
I mean, technically speaking, I'm not going into the nitty-gritty. They could just go back in.
Of course they could go back in, you sometimes have people sort of like going on about how would they take us and everything, we'd all been pain in the arse. Well, number one, we've had so many types, MEPs and stuff like that say to us, no, we would love to have you back. But also in addition, the thing that I always say to people is, there couldn't possibly be any greater vindication of the whole project than the return of the prodigal. You sort of like throw your arms, you leave, and all that, it gets a bit cold out there, it's a bit useless, and you're a bit stuck, and it's like, they come back, yeah, fine. That's wonderful. Because this is the other thing that did, us leaving. The other thing that leaving did is, Farage was banging on all the time about sovereignty and all that sort of shit. Do you remember the great European war where we went to war with the rest of the EU in order to leave? Yeah. No, the war. You remember getting guns? You remember people going? No, exactly. Because we were a sovereign country, we just signed a piece of paper. Yeah. If you're a sovereign country, you can sign a piece of paper and leave. If you're not a sovereign country, you have to go to war.
Yeah, there was a lot of arguments.
There were a lot of arguments, but it wasn't actually a war. No, because we were a sovereign nation. We proved our sovereignty by leaving on the way we did.
I mean, there's still a lot of things that's still part of that.
Now, the ECHR Number one, mostly written by British lawyers. Mostly. You know, it's our law.
It's a European court.
It's not an EU court. It's separate to the EU. It's got nothing to do with the EU.
Okay.
It's European court in the sense
So
that...
if he was a member of the EU,
Yeah,
and you're not a member of the European court, right?
yeah.
So you could, okay.
Oh, actually, I'm not sure. Now, there was a time when you could. Maybe you can't now. I think everyone is.
Everyone may be, but do they have to be?
Good point. I'm not actually sure. I could look into that actually. But I mean, even if they are, I mean that's because when you sign up to something, there are commitments that you. I mean, it's like joining any club. There's things that you'll join. There's things you know. And I mentioned earlier on things like Erasmus and the Dublin Convention and stuff that was optional. If this isn't optional, I mean, I don't think that's a worry because the European Convention on Human Rights is a really good thing. Now, with any law, there can be a question of how it's applied. That is perfectly valid. But essentially, the law is all about, you know, not torturing people, and you know, it's good stuff. And it all comes out. I mean, one of the great champions of what would become the ECHR and the EU was Winston Churchill, who went through the Second World War, and he was that because it's very interesting. Winston Churchill in the First World War. Now, I don't know if you're aware of this, but he'd started off in government, and I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's related to Gallipoli. You're aware of Gallipoli, yes?
No.
Gallipoli, lots. It's a big thing for the Australians and the New Zealanders because it was at the Dardanelles. So we're talking now sort of like Turkey, that sort of area, and they were holding the fort there, and basically they got hung out and they just got slaughtered. And it is often said that to some considerable degree that was Churchill's fault. That is why he left the government, certainly. And when he left the government, credit to him, he goes straight into the trenches. And he actually commanded in the trenches in the last couple of years. And it seems to have given him an insight that his other colleagues who had just been sort of like back in London didn't have. He saw some of what that hell was. And he came out of that with a different perspective that I can respect. He didn't think war was good. Now I know he takes us into the Second World War, but that is because it's fucking Hitler.
I think the thing that I've heard about the European Convention of Human Rights is that it's been used for different reasons than what it was set up for. Because you talk about, you know, it's not about torture and stuff like that, but I've seen it being used for things like
you can, as I said, you can have a discussion along the lines of. So, Jackie, please don't hit us.
Sorry.
I've seen it being used for things like, you know, you can't send this person back to where they came from with, you know, the deportation order because their son doesn't like chicken nuggets from anywhere else, you know, something ridiculous.
There are certain things, but on the other hand, let's give you another one that would be I would support. You know, sending anyone back to Afghanistan. Afghanistan is a disgusting regime. The Taliban and all that. You know, we see the Taliban as an enemy. The idea that we would send anyone back there, because we know the Taliban is very happy to kill. And of course, the big one with Afghanistan, and it has to be said that most people will be perfectly fine with this. The guys that helped our guys when we were in operations there, so as interpreters and all that sort of things, you know, they helped our forces. Well, if you help our forces, you get protected.
What if they're coming from France?
What's that got to do with it?
That's what I'm saying, they're coming from France.
No. Now, all we're talking... No. Safe countries bollocks. It's got nothing to do with anything. No. I'm talking about our responsibility. Now, I'm not talking about globally here. I'm not talking about everyone. What I'm talking about is people who supported our armed forces. Now, surely, there are armed forces and they aided our armed... We look after those guys, don't we? They went into war with us. It's the Gurkhas all over again. Yeah. You know, you go into war with us, you're ours. That's how it works. And anyone who thinks otherwise needs to think, number one, that's pathetic if you can't look after your own in war. But also, why would anyone ever help us in future wars?
But were they helping us or were we helping them?
There's a test afterwards.
Well, obviously, it was a mutual thing. Do you know the interesting thing about when we left, right? When we left, right, was because Biden felt he had to honour something that Trump had put in play when he was still thing, right? Do you know how many, let's say, Western Allied people have been killed in Afghanistan in the last 4 years before we pulled out? One. What we had done with air support, obviously, now initially in Helmand it's held, right? So I'm not talking about initially. But point is, we'd won. It was one of our biggest military successes, possibly since the Second World War. By the time we pulled out, us the Americans and Estonia and all of these Europeans, we were there, and all we were doing was giving the Afghanis air support whilst they fought the Taliban. And the Afghanis were losing people in war, but it's their country. They're fighting for their country. All we were doing was giving them air support, and it was working. And it was a massive success, and we pulled out. And Taliban take over.
They're helping us, but really it was us, and then we've gone over to help them.
But it's a mutual aid, because to have, you remember what happened the last time the Taliban were in charge of that country? They gave somewhere to Osama bin Laden to use as a base. It's in our interests that the Taliban are never. Don't you agree? We don't like the Taliban, right? I mean, you're not going to argue in favour of the Taliban, are you?
No,
exactly.
I'm not, no.
Yeah.
So obviously it's a mutual thing, but still, the point being is we've gone over to Afghanistan to help them get rid of the Taliban. They've not come to say, well, I know we're not at war with Russia, but they've not gone to Russia and helped us with Russia.
Well,
it's not, you know what I mean? That would be a mutual thing where.
Yeah, but that's a bad. You just picked a very bad example, because of course before the Taliban were sort of like overrunning Afghanistan, it was of course the Russians. So the Russians had been kicked out of Afghanistan. So
but again,
these things are complex.
It's still in their own country. They've not left. Well, my point being is they've not gone to another country with us to help us.
But whilst if we didn't have our proxy almost control over Afghanistan, it serves as a base for terrorism. They flew planes into the Twin Towers. We don't want that shit happening. And the great way to have that shit happening is to take these bases away, which we did in Afghanistan. And as I said, by the time we left, we comprehensively won it. And yes, the Afghanis were fighting and losing their lives, but as you say, that was their country, and that is their duty, that is for them. All we were doing was giving them air support, and it was a glorious success. It was one of the most successful pieces of foreign policy by the West that involves a military thing. I mean, possibly Kosovo is the great one, but after Kosovo. But actually, in a way, this was harder than Kosovo. Yeah, I'm always telling you about that. I mean, Kosovo was relatively simple compared to this, but we did great in Kosovo, and then we did Afghanistan, and Afghanistan has been intractable going all the way back to the 70s, the Russians invading and all that sort of thing. It had been a nightmare for decades. That's why Osama bin Laden went there. Fucking did it. Fucking did it. And then we just non-stop and go, we don't do this anymore, and the Taliban take over again, and now it's a fucking well of danger to us again.
It just seems like a lot to give. Where we've been over to help, because we've been in every single one of them.
No, I didn't say every Afghani. I said the guys and their families who had served with our guys. Does the armed forces mean anything to you?
Yeah, so you're talking about only the armed forces of Afghanistan?
The guys who served with our guys in the armed forces. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about those guys and their families, because they can't abandon their families. Those guys, I mean, you'll have seen the news in the last couple of weeks about how
down the family line do you go? Is it just immediate family, brothers, sisters, mum, dad?
Probably has to be nuclear family. That's a factor about this. So, some kids, maybe a mum, that sort of thing. But you've seen possibly in the last couple of weeks how fucking Foreign Office leaked all these guys' names. So there's a whole bunch of them that are over there still, and they fucking leaked their fucking names. And it's like, if we can't stand by the guys we serve with, what does that say about us? We have to be able to do that, and that isn't like every country, because we're not engaged with every country in the world like that.
At some point,
no. There is a history of empire and all that sort of thing. We're not talking about that. What we are talking about is in the modern era, when it's living memory. It's only we're talking about 2 or 3. We're talking 10 years ago. We are talking now. Here's another way of looking at it. We're talking now about families who lost sons and daughters in that conflict, getting it won, and then you pull out. Okay, I'll follow shortly. And then so your son was killed in Helmand, capturing it, getting the Taliban down. and then you pull out, and it's like, what did you die for? You know, it matters.
Are you the guys that were fixed up down the road?
Yeah, it's going back into Rejoining. Yeah, yeah, that's it.
The guy that I see all the time, loads and loads of videos. I've seen him there this morning.
That'll be Steve who's been started it.
Steve?
Yeah. Listen, it's been great talking, but go back up there. I hope I've given you a little bit. It's not all about blanket. No, hold on. What do you mean lefty? What I've been talking about here is respecting the people who served with our armed forces. Is that a left-wing idea?
Well, you're part of a Brexit group, yeah?
Oh, is that as well? Well,
You're part of a lefty group. You're part of a lefty group.
is Brexit a left-wing thing?
Yes, it's lefty.
No, what is this?
Lefty.
You-
You're part of a lefty group.
you-
Wearing all that.
Just repeating it doesn't. We're not actually engaged in a conversation. You're just repeating it, and it's not very clever, is it? I mean, you're not really engaged here, are you? You're not.
Essentially sounds like anything from Palestine Action.
Well, I know what Palestine Action, but I don't know who Annie Hunt is. I have no idea.
No, not even her
I think she
name.
just
You
came
will
over
do.
and talked to us and have a pleasant conversation.
No.
Yeah.
So
I'm-
I'll tell you off camera.
Yeah, I'll go to John. Right. See you guys.